Sportsline on ESPN Radio 102.7. Sportsline is a locally produced sports talk show that focuses on high school and WKU as well as regional athletes who play at the next level. Sportsline was originated by Hall of Fame sportscaster Wes Strader. Now with a new version of Sportsline, here's Garret Browning on ESPN Radio 102.7.
Good afternoon to you, sports fans. Welcome to Sportsline.
Well, it was a wild and crazy weekend around South Central Kentucky, the high school football landscape, the Tops on Saturday, even the Titans on Sunday coming through after 2 straight weeks of ranting here on the Sportsline. It got through somehow to the Tennessee Titans locker room. My name's Garret Browning, at Garret Browning 5 on Twitter. Hanging out here on the West Strader Sportsline as we have been all season since 2019 started, and it's been a fun one since football season opened up. I thought this football season, our inaugural football season of the Sportsline on West Strader's ESPN Radio 102.7 FM, ESPN Radio 102.7.com, I thought it was going to be a slow one. The Tops started off very slow as you could, to be honest, with a loss to FCS Central Arkansas, UCA, here at the Houch, week 1 of the college football season. All of a sudden, they get a win in Conference USA next week against good old Butch Davis down at FIU in Miami. Tough loss to Louisville. And then all of a sudden, against the defending conference champions at the Houch this Saturday, a defensive stalwart performance after what was a dismal defensive performance the first couple of weeks. All of a sudden, 4 interceptions, constant pressure on the quarterback. And one of my deleted tweets from earlier this season involved D'Angelo Malone, defensive end, outside linebacker for the Hilltopper defense, just a supreme pass rusher in the backfield. Just listen to a couple of these stats that WKU football put out earlier today. 9.3 total tackles per game. That's tied for 31st in FBS. Oh, by the way, D'Angelo Malone plays the defensive line. The next closest D lineman on that list averages 6.8, almost 84 places behind Malone. 9 tackles for loss. That leads Conference USA and ranks 3rd in all of Division I college football FBS. 4 sacks, that leads the Hilltoppers and is tied for 2nd in Conference USA. D'Angelo Malone has been a playmaker on the defensive side of the ball, and Stephen Duncan goes down with the foot injury for the season. There were questions. Tyson Helton said he wasn't going to name his starting quarterback until this Saturday. We were all kind of on pins and needles, making sure it was going to be the guy we thought it was going to be. Sure enough, Ty Story gets that opportunity, and my goodness, takes advantage of it. Granted, the defense gave him plenty of opportunities to make sure they sealed the deal, but Ty Story did a good job holding on to the football, not making the big mistake, and giving the Hilltoppers every chance to win and come away 2-0 in Conference USA. I think after that loss to Central Arkansas, you could ask anybody in the stadium, would you take 2-0 in Conference USA? 15 of 24 was Story, 189 yards, 62.5% completion, and yards per attempt, close to 8 yards per attempt at the least. What I like to see is when you're at least getting that yards over 10 yards per completion. It means you're throwing the ball down the field, extending your defense a little. And what was surprising in this game is if you would have told me the Hilltopper rushing attack with Gage Walker would have been absolutely stifled, including a big fumble at one point in the ball game, I don't know if I would have told you the Hilltoppers came away with that game, especially after I picked the Tops to lose on Sportsline last Monday, and then I stuck with my pick on Topper Tailgate this Saturday. Sure enough, the Tops proved me wrong. It's that reverse psychology, man. I might just have to stick with it the rest of the way, see how it plays out. It's going to work with those Titans, too, evidently. I picked the Falcons to at least cover against the Titans, and nope. Somehow the Titans on the road. I can't tell if the Titans are that good or if the Falcons are that bad. Are the Browns that good? Or are they actually just that bad? We'll try and figure out as we move along here in the segment. We're going to talk more WKU out of the break, including some of the fall sports that may not get the coverage they always deserve, but my goodness, they keep winning that it's hard to keep them out of the news. That would be WKU soccer and WKU volleyball, a thriller for soccer in double overtime, and volleyball just cleaning out Conference USA awards. That's when we come back here on ESPN Radio 102.7 FM. And ESPNradio1027.com. If you want to get in touch with me, it is at Garret Browning 5 on Twitter, 2 R's, 1 T. Send in your questions or concerns for me or for Brett Williams and Tyler Mansfield, who are hopefully going to be joining us later in the hour. Brett Williams, voice of the Lady Tops, helping out with softball, WKU soccer, and volleyball. And, of course, you all know Tyler Mansfield covering Kentucky high school sports and much, much more from around the South Central Kentucky area. So more coming up out of the break. Sportsline here on ESPN.
Right now at Wright Implement, you can get up to $3,000 off select John Deere Gators. You can even get 0% for 48 months if you want. During our Gear Up for Fall event, save like never before on everything from commercial zero-turn mowers to lawn tractors to compact utility tractors and more. Wright Implement is your one-stop source for everything John Deere. Offer ends 9/30/2019. Some restrictions apply. See us for details. Save today at Wright Implement. Online at wrightimp.com.
Thank you for making Fire Pit Spirits the best. For the first time, you voted a single business the best of Barron County in 4 categories. Best in customer service, best locally owned business, best beer selection, and best beer and liquor store. And they realized that they couldn't have done it without you. So they just wanted to take a moment to say thank you to their customers. Fire Pit Spirits, the area's premier full-service liquor store, according to your votes. Thank you, Barron County, from everyone at locally owned and operated Fire Pit Spirits. 1100 Happy Valley Road, Glasgow.
Listen each week to Tennessee Titans football on 105.3 The Point as they battle for the playoffs. Presented by Southern States of Bowling Green and Franklin. Also brought to you by Bowling Green Refrigeration, Heating and Cooling, Bank of Edmonson County, First Step Prosthetics and Orthotics, Overtime Sports Bar and Grill, Ferguson Bath Kitchen and Lighting Gallery, and Coca-Cola. It's your home for Tennessee Titans football every week in Southern Kentucky. 105.3 The Point. Tighten up.
Juvenile Diabetes Research Foundation, Hospice of Southern Kentucky, and the Alzheimer's Foundation invite you to the Cruisin' for a Cure car show every Tuesday night at Brewster's on Scottsville Road in Bowling Green. See hot rods, street rods, rat rods, and more.
Shine them up and show them all. Cruise in for a special Thunder on the Square car show Sunday, October 6th, 10 till 5 on the Square in Russellville. Part of the 63rd Annual Logan County Tobacco and Heritage Festival.
Don't miss the Cruisin' for a Cure car show, benefiting the Juvenile Diabetes Research Foundation, Hospice of Southern Kentucky, and the Alzheimer's Foundation. It's free and fun for the whole family. That's every Tuesday night, 5 till 8 at Brewster's on Scottsville Road in Bowling Green.
Plus, remember to get your tickets for the 2019 Ford Mustang giveaway.
The Cruisin' for a Cure car show is sponsored in part by Brewster's Real Ice Cream and J.C. Kirby & Son Funeral Chapels and Crematory.
All day, SEC boys. SEC, they supposed to be SEC.
Good old Andrew Jackson from back in the day bringing us back. SEC boys, supposed to be SEC, no longer. Man, Kentucky football. I didn't even mean to take a shot at Kentucky football when I played that, but Sawyer Smith all of a sudden, after what looked like he could handle the pressure, having to replace Terry Wilson at quarterback, and they did not look good against South Carolina this past weekend. But that's okay. All we're worried about is Hilltopper football getting a huge leap up in Conference USA, taking down the defending Conference USA champion, the UAB Blazers. Garret Browning here with this local Sports Center update. You're listening to Sportsline here on ESPN. WKU football had 2 players named to the Conference USA Award this week. Kyle Bailey took home the CUSA Defensive Player of the Week, while Munson took home the Special Teams Player of the Week for the Tops as well. 2 for 2 on his field goal attempts, Corey Munson that is, and Kyle Bailey with his 2 interceptions. Both taking home the Conference USA Awards. And, of course, volleyball once again. More awards for the volleyball Lady Tops, who are gaining votes for the top 25 throughout their non-conference slate this season. 15-1, a win streak of 11 games now. Their only loss was on the road to the Louisville Cardinals almost 4 full weeks ago. That was September 6th. Since then, all they've done is beat Ohio State, beat Tulane, went on the road, beat Belmont, Sanford, Southern Miss, Northern Kentucky, and now they get to start Conference USA play. They just had their first Conference USA game yesterday, a 3-0 sweep. What else? Of the Southern Miss Golden Eagles. And now this Friday, they've got an even bigger matchup. The rivals from Murfreesboro, Middle Tennessee, 6 o'clock on Friday, October the 4th. That is from EA Diddle Arena. And you can also catch it on that Hilltopper Sports Satellite Network on Facebook. Free feed on Facebook with a free broadcast done by the voice of the Lady Tops, Brett Williams himself. You can't get any better than that. I mean, there are schools that are going to charge you $30 to watch all those games. You can just tune into HSSN on Facebook and get volleyball, soccer, and come this spring, you'll also get to check out some softball matchups. But the Lady Tops award winner would be Nadia, and I know I'm going to mess this up, and I apologize. That's why I wanted to have Brett Williams on so he could correct me as soon as I start to say this. WKU volleyball setter Nadia Diodane has been named the Conference USA Setter of the Week, the 3rd Setter of the Week nod for Nadia so far this season. I'm just going to stick with Nadia. That one's easier to say. But congratulations to the WKU volleyball team, 15-1. Make sure you go out Friday at 6 o'clock to support them versus the Crosstown, maybe not Crosstown, but the 100 Miles of Hate rivalry that is Middle Tennessee State. We got a question on Twitter sent in. How many more wins can the Tops get in Conference USA football? I wanted to get to some MLB playoff action, but that's a good question, so I guess we'll stick with the Hilltopper football mantra again. Tops now 2-0 in Conference USA, 0-2 in their non-conference slate. Coming into the season, I think if you would have asked the fans, would you take losses to Central Arkansas and Louisville to start 2-0 in Conference USA, I think the majority of fans would be okay with that. It's been a weird start to the season for the Hilltoppers, but ever since the beginning of September, it's a much different team. Of course, you have to count Week 1, the loss to Central Arkansas. You wish it could have been an exhibition game, but you still have to count it as a loss, 35-28. Since that time, the Tops have picked up 2 conference wins, one on the road in Miami against what at the time was a pretty heavy favorite for Conference USA run. Then in Nashville against the Louisville Cardinals, who have had a pretty nice start to the season under Scott Satterfield, new coach, 38-21. Then you defeat the defending Conference USA champions 20-13 on your home field. This is a defense that has given up less than 15 points in 2 Conference USA games so far this season against 2 offenses that were, well regarded. I mean, Tyler Johnston, for the most part, tore up offenses to start this season for UAB, and their running back, Spencer Brown, who is a junior, actually is going to become their all-time leading rusher. All he needed was, I think, 73 yards, maybe 72. It says he finished with 70. So he's going to take over that role here in the next year or two, and they've had some great running backs, UAB. Remember Jordan Howard was actually a UAB running back when the Tops first started to play the Blazers in Conference USA. And now they have a junior running back that the Tops held to 3.3 yards per carry. All of a sudden, this is a defense that realistically you feel could keep you in every Conference USA game for the most part. Looking at the rest of the conference schedule, at Old Dominion next week, which is going to be a huge game. Old Dominion is 1-3, but they have played the toughest schedule so far out of Conference USA, I'd say. They have one win, which is a close victory over Norfolk State. But then listen to these three losses. At Virginia Tech, who they beat last year in Blacksburg. So Virginia Tech with a little revenge in week 2, 31-17. Then they go on the road to Virginia. They led Virginia 17-0 at one point. Gave up 28 straight in the second half and lost on the road. Last week, they were at home versus Eastern Carolina. Of course, an American Athletic opponent, a team that's had their ups, had their downs as well, but ECU comes out with a victory at Old Dominion. So there's a lot riding on this game for Old Dominion. Yeah, they've had some close games so far this season, but they've yet to get that marquee win. And what better to try and knock off these Tops after they've finally started to get back on their high horse. It's taken them a while, but I don't know. I like the Tops headed into this Old Dominion game. I mean, this is a team they've played tough opponents, but sometimes taking 3 straight losses, that can really irk your confidence. I like the Tops getting a win over Charlotte at home 2 weeks later, so there's at the very least one win. At Marshall. Ooh, Marshall's been good this season so far. Granted, they got destroyed by Cincinnati this week, but they have a decent win over Ohio, and then they played Boise State extremely close on the road in Boise. What a weird game that was in week 2 of the college football season. Then FAU at home at Southern Miss and Middle Tennessee State here back at the Houch. The home conference games fare well for the Tops. All 3 of those games you view as winnable now because of what you've seen from the defense. The problem moving forward is when you look at those offensive numbers, Ty Story was good, not turning the ball over with any big interceptions, moving the ball down the field decent. But if you don't have that consistent rushing attack, we're going to get back to those same issues that we remember in those early Sanford days, even when we had Mike White, even when we had decent quarterback play. It's going to stall your offense to a certain extent, especially in Conference USA. I think the Tops realistically have a chance to get 4 to 5 more Conference USA wins. Now, that's on the high end of optimism. I think Charlotte, most winnable games in order. Charlotte at home. Give me Middle Tennessee at home to end the season. I really think by the end of the year, Tops rivalry game in the Houch. Hopefully that place will be packed. I'll give the Tops that one. Florida Atlantic at home, too. I haven't been super impressed with Florida Atlantic. I always bet against Lane Kiffin. Maybe a bad rule, but at Marshall and then at Southern Miss, I think those are the 2 toughest games on the schedule. October 26th at Marshall and November 23rd at Southern Miss. Those are going to be the difference between, are the Tops a true contender for the CUSA crown or are they pretenders? Right now, 2-0 in Conference USA. They are the only team on the East Division who has played 2 conference games, but they're out 2-0. Can't say nothing about that. On the West side, everybody's played a conference opponent. La Tech, 2-0. 4-1 overall, back to their winning ways. It feels like it's been a little bit for Louisiana Tech. When we come back from our next break, our buddy Brett Williams is headed into the ESPN radio studios. We're going to break down what's been a wild and crazy start to the fall sports schedule for not just this WKU football team. Obviously, we know it's been a wild, crazy start for them. FCS losses, undefeated in Conference USA. But so far, the WKU soccer team, they are undefeated in Conference USA, 6-2-1 overall. They knocked off Louisiana Tech this past weekend, who is 9-1-1 overall. Gave them their first loss of the season. That's what we love to see. So we'll talk some Hilltoppers soccer as well. This is the WKU volleyball team, 15-1 overall in a big rivalry matchup this Friday versus Middle Tennessee. Coming up out of this break, give you a couple of minutes here on ESPN Radio, ESPN Radio 1027.com, the Sportsline.
Hello, son. I'm Dean Rubin from college. Here to invite you to join us this fall.
Me?
You've always wanted to go to college, correct?
Yeah.
Well, here's that invitation you've been waiting for.
Joey, out of bed.
Wake up. You can't dream your way into college. There are actual steps you need to take. For all the steps, visit knowhowtogo.org. Brought to you by the American Council on Education, Lumina Foundation for Education, and the Ad Council.
I'm Paul George. When I was 6, I had one thing on my mind. When I was 6, my days were spent playing basketball every chance I could. When I was 6, my dream was to make it to the NBA. When I was 6, my mom had a stroke. So I want you to learn the signs of a stroke fast. F-A-S-T. F, face drooping. A, arm weakness. S, speech difficulty. T, time to call 911. Because the sooner they get to the hospital, the sooner they'll get treatment. And that can make a remarkable difference in their recovery. I'm Paul George. Protect the ones you love. Spot a stroke F-A-S-T. Fast. Life is why. Visit strokeassociation.org. Brought to you by the American Stroke Association and the Ad Council.
This is a Morgan & Morgan consumer message.
I'm John Morgan of Morgan & Morgan. When our clients come to us for representation, I see way more than a client. I see me. When I hear someone has a herniated disc or a back injury, I think, what if that was me? How would that impact my life? I put myself in your shoes and in your life. When I look at your family, I see my family. This outlook makes my firm think differently than most. I understand that some injuries are forever, and forever is a very long time. For 30 years, we've helped hundreds of thousands recover what they deserve. $1 billion last year alone. Every time we hear your stories, we feel like it's us. If you're injured in a car crash, slip and fall, or the victim of medical malpractice, call us because we care. Dial pound law on your cell phone. That's pound 529. Morgan & Morgan, forthepeople.com.
Offices Bowling Green.
If your business needs to cool, chill, or freeze, or warm, heat, or cook, you know you can't afford to disappoint. That's why you call BG Refrigeration, because BG Refrigeration never disappoints. They satisfy any heating or cooling need your business may have. Factories, restaurants, malls, plants, big industrial warehouses, doesn't matter. BG Refrigeration is who you call. Commercial heating and ducts, AC maintenance and replacement, commercial refrigeration, restaurant equipment, cold storage warehouses. BG Refrigeration ensures your heating and cooling needs are met so your business doesn't suffer. Walk-in freezers, exhaust systems, pizza ovens, ice makers, whatever heats or cools. If it's restaurant related, BG Refrigeration is, by far, the best company in South Central Kentucky to service them. In fact, there are a few companies that can or will even try to do what BG Refrigeration does every day. They're the company that's called in for the big jobs that require more experience, that need to be done right the first time. Why would you trust your business's commercial heating and cooling needs to anyone else? Turn to the experts. Call BG Refrigeration at 270-782-5391, where your comfort is their concern.
J. Allen Builders, Kenway Concrete presents high school football on ESPN Radio 102.7.
Friday at 7 o'clock, the Russell County Lakers at 3-1 pay a visit to the 1-3 Warren East Raiders in Bowling Green.
Warren East Raider football is brought to you.
Welcome back to the Sportsline here on ESPN Radio 102.7 FM, ESPN Radio 102.7 MLB.com. Give you a little programming note moving forward this week. Of course, MLB playoffs starting. NL Wildcard Tuesday, 6:30 pregame will start here on ESPN Radio 102.7. So you can listen to the Sports Web tomorrow, 5 to 6. And stay tuned, just 30 minutes afterwards, you'll hear the pregame for the NL Wildcard. Then Wednesday, Tampa Bay Rays at the Oakland A's. I've got my Rays hat on right now. We'll join the Rays and the A's in progress Wednesday. Again, a 6:30 pregame, about a 7:05 pitch is what it's listed at. But, that's 7:15, 7:20. Who knows? Tyler Mansfield knows how that feels. He sat up in a couple of high school press boxes before and pondered, when are we going to kick this thing off? Tyler, how's it going, buddy?
Garrett, how you doing, man? Good to be back on.
Have you ever been stuck in that situation before, like 15 minutes past kickoff? Like, come on, man, I'm trying to catch the train home.
Yeah, it's been a time or two. I've wondered, hey, I thought this game was at 6, and it was like 7:30, and we haven't kicked off yet. Like, what's going on?
And our buddy Tyler is coming to his own website. Now, you got to break it down for me. Excuse my ignorance, because it's brand new. You just launched this new website in the past week. So give us the full laydown before we even get into the interview. What's going on with you?
Yeah, man, I'm a new owner and editor of SouthernKentuckyPreps.com. It's basically a high school sports publication. It's covering high school sports in and around Bowling Green. So I know from game stories to breaking news to columns, features, those heartfelt stories, game coverage. So, I mean, from there to there, that's the point, is to have just top-notch high school sports coverage like I have for a long time now, but kind of my own platform now. And, of course, we're running off advertising, so it's a good idea and a good opportunity to do it right now, I think.
Well, you're going to have the support, buddy. Trust me, everybody in this area who follows you on social media knows how committed you are to high school athletics and bringing great coverage. So, we're definitely going to support you on that front. At Tyler Mansfield on Twitter. Tyler joining us on the program, talking some high school athletics. And our buddy Brett Williams just rolled into the studio as well, voice of the Lady Tops, WKU volleyball and soccer. And you guys were both at, I think, arguably the best high school football game of the week in the state of the Bluegrass. Tyler, we'll start with you, buddy. Glasgow and South Warren. What do you think just made that matchup so good in the first place?
I mean, overall, it was a great matchup coming in. I mean, both teams ranked in the top 5 of their respective classes. I mean, ball players on both sides of the ball, very, very talented kids. I mean, I knew the game would be great and fun to watch and cover, but the way it played out, I mean, man, just Glasgow had a 14-0 lead at halftime. South Warren comes marching back, and then it looks like Glasgow might pull it out there in the fourth quarter late, and then South Warren has a crazy play and wins the game. So, I mean, from start to finish, that game was one to watch for sure.
And, Brett, I know you've gotten the chance to cover a couple of South Warren games, and welcome onto the program, buddy. Brett Williams, voice of the Lady Tops. But what did you think about South Warren? Obviously, without their main starting quarterback, Caden Veltkamp, who's gotten a couple of good publicity, some recruiting notes throughout the season on social media I've seen, so they move on to their next guy up. What did you know about the next guy up, and how do you think he performed?
Well, Mason Willingham was doing quite well as a wide receiver for Veltkamp for the first couple games of the season, so it was interesting to see them go to him at quarterback. Apparently he had been a quarterback in middle school, and so Brandon Smith said he was confident in him. He knew he could throw a good ball, and didn't really look like it in the first half, but really South Warren couldn't get its run game going, and I think they needed to. Obviously, they've done so well on the ground this year, and they weren't able to get that going against Glasgow, so it forced Willingham into a tight spot. All of a sudden, they got more balanced in the second half, and he started coming alive, and then they did what South Warren always does and finds ways to win games.
I think I was following it on Twitter. Of course, I was at the Warren East Edmonson County game, and just from following it on Twitter, it seemed like all the momentum throughout the majority of that football game was with Glasgow, and all of a sudden, just like that, the whole game turned in a matter of 4 to 5 minutes.
It did, and really Glasgow had the game won for all intents and purposes when they picked off Willingham with about 2 minutes to go, and South Warren didn't even have 3 timeouts at that point. Glasgow even got a first down, and quite honestly, Tyler, I'm really curious to hear your thought on this, because to me, I did not understand the clock management that was used at the end of that game by Glasgow, and how they, and particularly why they chose not to punt and pin South Warren deep, but go for it on 4th and 16 with a low percentage play. What's your thought on that?
Yeah, I've been asked that same question a couple times, from even breakfast Saturday morning. People are like, "You were at that game last night?" I said, "Yeah, I was there." They said, "What happened?" And, I mean, you think about it, you would think that having a lead like that against a really good team, you would want to do the correct thing and pull it out. I'm not sure kind of what they thought. I mean, because you had a touchdown lead, 6 points, and all you had to do was run the clock out. You either punt it or get a first down and just run the clock out or something. But that time management there is something that still lingers in my mind. I'm like, Glasgow could have had this game won, but yet they did this, and South Warren capitalized on it. And it's something that I guess we'll think about for a long time now.
No doubt. Probably would have been the best win in Glasgow for a very long time, you would think. And that program's not exactly on the down low, but that would have been something.
Right, and if Glasgow would have won, it would have been their 650th all-time win as a program.
Wow.
Ooh.
So that was one of the stats we were looking at in the press box. We're like, well, man, they were that close to doing that, but I guess we'll have to wait until next week.
And that's a weird trend we've seen across football, not just high school, not just college, but even into the pros. There are guys that just love to roll the dice, love to be aggressive and say, hey, I don't even want to give the team another chance to have the football. Even the Titans with the Falcons this Sunday, they're up 14. Vrabel's in the red zone. He says, no, I don't want the field goal. I don't want 17. Let's go for it. And luckily, they miss it, and luckily things worked out for the Titans. But, this is a growing trend across all shades of football, not just high school, middle school, where you see it on TV, and even in the pros, guys love to be more aggressive now.
Yeah, I don't mind that to a point. I question in certain situations where, again, we're talking a 4th and 16 here.
Yeah.
I mean, what are we doing on 4th and 16?
You gotta have pretty nice play rolled out there, the hook and ladder or something.
Well, of course, the hook and ladder is what ended up getting biting Glasgow with South Warren. That was an unbelievable play call thereafter. So,
Tyler, buddy, sticking with us at Tyler Mansfield on Twitter, bringing great coverage around high school athletics throughout the area. What's the game this week that you're looking forward to? I know it's early in the week; it's just Monday, so you probably haven't gotten your full preview done so far, but is there a game you've got on the schedule so far?
Well, this week, of course, is Bowling Green South Warren week. This is the week, one of the best games always of the year.
Trying to play it down a little.
Yeah, just a little bit. But going into this week, I mean, South Warren, state's longest winning streak. Bowling Green, you didn't get to play last Friday because of rain at Corbin. So it's an interesting matchup. It's always fun when those two schools play. It'll be a packed house. So that's the game of the week, and I'm looking forward to it.
And, Brett, I know you've gotten to call a couple of games for Sport and Times, I think, with South. You got a game this weekend? You doing anything this weekend?
I do not. I've got a whole lot of Lady Topper
action. You got volleyball, don't you?
Yeah, volleyball against Middle Tennessee, so that's where I'll be on Friday.
We'll get into the volleyball in just a little bit out of this next break. But, Tyler, before I let you get out of here, man, talking about that Bowling Green South Warren matchup, I feel like this is one of the more even on-paper matchups that these two teams have had in the last couple of years, which is really weird to say because all of their matchups are usually even on paper. But just both teams kind of have a lot of question marks. Of course, South Warren doesn't have their main quarterback. Bowling Green kind of has a slew of quarterbacks that they can use. Who do you think has that favorite rolling into Friday?
That's a really good question. Like you said, it's usually, it's even, and this year's even, but I mean, you look at it, Caden Veltkamp's not playing, so South Warren's going to a different guy who didn't play bad at Glasgow, but, of course, this is a big-time game, big-time spotlight for him to show himself off in. Bowling Green's got Connor Cooper and Max Payne, and a lot of talented guys, from start to finish, top to bottom of the lineup. I think you look at it, the game's at South Warren, so that helps out, of course, but I think coming down to the end of things, I think Bowling Green has the edge barely just because of, I guess, they're more consistent. And I guess that quarterback play is just the biggest question for South, and it's kind of hard to choose them when you're going to play a team like Bowling Green with a new guy under center.
Well, Tyler, thanks for coming on the program with us, breaking down that South Glasgow game for us. Give us all the Twitter info again for the new blog website you've got started up, buddy.
Yeah, the website's called SouthernKentuckyPreps.com. It's SouthernKYPreps.com. Big plans for the site. Make sure to follow along and Track the coverage. It'll be great. That's what they're playing at least. Follow me on Twitter at @ByMansfield, at BY. That's, the By Tyler Mansfield thing. Other than that, man, coverage throughout the year. Looking forward to it.
Man, we're always looking forward to it. We'll have you on very soon, buddy. Thanks for coming.
Yeah, thanks, Jared. Appreciate it, man. See you guys.
See you, Tyler. Tyler Mansfield joining us. You heard his Twitter at there, at @ByMansfield, always bringing the high school coverage. And Brett, I'm glad you got to see that game, man. I was in Edmonson County, and I just kept refreshing the Twitter, wondering what's going to happen,
Yeah. I think all of us at the field were wondering one moment to the next. That was a finish for the ages.
And that was not the only crazy finish of the weekend, to say the least. The Lady Topper soccer team had a crazy finish once again in double overtime. I believe that marks 4 straight victories. Is that correct? Or at least 3.
Yeah, let's see. It would be Louisiana Tech, Southern Miss, Alabama A&M, SIU. Yeah, so 4 in a row.
4 in a row, and 2 straight victories in Conference USA, which, of course, gives you a big 6 points. Granted, all of these games have been at home. They've got 2 more home games coming this weekend. Thursday, 7 o'clock versus Charlotte, and Sunday, 1 o'clock versus Old Dominion. Also, the volleyball team's got a game on Thursday. But we'll start with soccer this Thursday. Already picked up a big 6 points, and we've kind of talked about this earlier in the year, especially in soccer. When you're playing on your home pitch, you want to get 3. And if you can come away with 3, it takes a lot of pressure off of some of those road games where you're playing tough opponents as well later in the season, because that's what this Lady Top schedule really is.
No doubt. It's a weird schedule this year, playing 4 of their 5 conference home matches right out the gate, so they have to end with 5 of 6 on the road, and the road was not kind to the Lady Toppers last year. Been a little bit better so far this year in non-conference, but you're absolutely right. These are huge confidence boosters. They are great for the table, which, last year the Tops were just on the outside looking into the tournament. So during the Southern Miss broadcast, my broadcast partner Nathan Yazdani said, today a tournament berth might be won here in Game 1 of the conference season. I thought that was a very astute point, and the Tops got it with a beautiful goal from Amber Barnett, and then they get a win over La Tech via the penalty kick very late in that second overtime from Ashley Leonard yesterday. So very good things right now for the Tops.
And for some of soccer fans out there that may not know college soccer as well, you get 2 overtimes, correct? If you score in the first overtime, do you still play the second overtime?
Don't. So you have 20 minutes of golden goal time, and after 10 minutes, if no one scored, they just flip sides of the field and play another 10.
But after the double overtime as well, unless it's tournament play, there's no penalties, then it is the tie. You get 1 point.
That is correct, yeah. And so the Tops, over the last 2 years, had not won via golden goal. I think it was August of 17, so just over 2 years ago, where they had either gone the full distance and tied, or they'd lost in one of those 2 overtime periods. And now all of a sudden they not only break that streak, but they score a golden goal in back-to-back matches to open conference play.
Which is pretty astounding, especially considering earlier in the season they had 3 double overtime games, and none of them were winners. One of them was a tie. 2 of them were really tough losses, but 2 losses to really good opponents, Sanford and Ole Miss. Sanford, I know they're known for their soccer. That's Georgia, right? Or is it?
They are in Alabama.
Alabama.
Yes.
I knew it was close.
Yeah, you're right on it. And yes, they did win the Southern Conference of SoCon in the regular season last year.
And then tying Kentucky in double overtime on the road in Kentucky as well, which was pretty awesome earlier in the season.
And really controlled a lot of that match, too. I mean, the Lady Toppers had a lot more shots in that match than the Wildcats did, and I think that was the first time, because the opening match against Belmont, team that's struggling right now, 5-0 win, made you feel good, but not really know for sure what WKU had. When they went up to UK with that effort, I think that's when a lot of people really started believing, and they've just continued to take us on that road of belief thus far.
So we mentioned it, 2 home matches this weekend, October 3rd on Thursday at 7, October 6th, Sunday at 1. Both of them will be on that HSSN Facebook feed. You can check out for free with or without a Facebook profile, I believe. You can tune into the Facebook feed or just go out to the soccer complex and check out the Lady Tops, because it's going to be your only chance for another 3 weeks. They won't be back until October 25th. They'll have 4 road games in between. So, like your partner mentioned on that first broadcast, a tournament berth could have been won in Game 1. It almost feels like the Lady Tops could maybe not seal a tournament berth, but put them in a position where they really don't have they have a lot of room for error, I should say, moving forward.
Oh, yeah. I mean, if you get another couple of points out of these two and you're already 40% of the way through your conference stretch, you have to be feeling good about their chances to finally break back into that tournament. And quite honestly, I've been saying it for a long time. This team really has an unlimited potential this year because of what they do defensively. I mean, that back line is so solid. Annie Juliak's been fantastic in goal. To this point, they've only allowed 2 goals the entire season that haven't come off of set pieces. So in the course of play, they're darn near unbeatable. And so then it's just a matter of getting the offense in the right position. They've had a lot more shots than have opponents this year. So, I mean, I think a lot of people are sleeping on what's going on over here on the Hill.
I had to double check it. 7 goals allowed so far in 9 matches. That's a pretty nice number right there for any team at any level.
And quite frankly, I'd have to verify this briefly, but right off the top of my head, I'm pretty sure only one match they've allowed more than 1 goal, and that was against Samford that you mentioned a few minutes ago. So they've had a lot of shutouts, and it's just pretty impressive what's going on over there.
So I know you probably don't get to know a lot about these teams, the opponents, before they come into Conference USA, because there's not that much out there in terms of research for certain Conference USA opponents. But what have you thought of the strength of the league so far compared to maybe some of the decent non-conference opponents you guys saw, like Ole Miss, and I believe you didn't get to go to the Kentucky game. But
correct.
Ole Miss and those other opponents.
Well, I think Southern Miss and La Tech are both quality wins for WKU. I think Southern Miss, having seen them for a full almost 110 minutes in that contest, I mean, they have another stout defense. They have a lot of options offensively. I don't think they've quite figured out how to connect as much from the midfield going forward, but that team's going to be relevant. As you mentioned earlier in the show, Louisiana Tech was unbeaten coming into yesterday, and although if you look at their schedule, they haven't played a ton of really good teams, but they also had one of the best scoring offenses in the country and do have the nation's leading goal scorer in Autumn Woodard. And so, again, for the WKU to pull off that win, that speaks some volumes. And as far as I understand about the rest of the league, you've got the North Texases and the Rices of the world who are always power in this conference. And then, I'm expecting a lot of other good contests against pretty evenly matched teams.
And we'll get into the volleyball team out of the break. Again, WKU Soccer this Thursday and Sunday from the WKU Soccer Complex, right over there next to the softball field as well. Charlotte Thursday at 7 o'clock and Old Dominion Sunday at 1. Both of those on HSSN on Facebook. I got to ask, have you worked Wonder Strike or Firecracker into any of the broadcasts so far this season?
I don't think I said Wonder Strike after Amber Barnett. I remember saying she wins it for Western Kentucky as she's running back, and then I did a little description of Jason Nidell's excellent celebration when he was getting out there and getting involved. I don't think either of those phrases came up, but if there was a goal to do it, it would have been that one.
Wonder Strike, it's still coming. There's still time for a Wonder Strike or a Firecracker. It'll just come to you out of nowhere either. You can't set that up. It's just
I'm
got to
drop
happen.
your name in the broadcast when I do too.
I better get the clip of that. We're joined by Brett Williams, voice of the Lady Topper basketball team, as well as WKU volleyball, soccer, and the softball team coming this spring as well. We haven't gotten into the softball team. They're going to be a lot of fun to watch this spring.
I think so. I enjoyed following them this past year from afar, and looking forward to getting involved with that program too.
Talking a little WKU volleyball out of the break, 15-1. Not too shabby. Sportsline, ESPN Radio.
You're doing your best to build and grow your business, trying to reach as many prospective customers as possible and get them in your door. Lucky for you, I specialize in helping you do exactly that. I'm Sherry Clark, and for over 25 years, my focus has been helping businesses grow. I leverage the power and reach of radio, the deep connectivity of social media, and the on-demand convenience of online marketing to put you and your business in front of as many people as possible. How do you know my marketing advice works? Just talk to other business owners and managers in Southern Kentucky. For years, I've helped businesses like Studel Financial Services, Super Home Surplus, and United Furniture maximize their marketing dollars. And for as long as I've been helping businesses in Bowling Green, Kentucky Music has trusted me to guide their over-the-air marketing efforts. As your marketing consultant, my focus is on results for you. My advice is based on what's best for your business, not on a monthly quota. Your potential customers have a problem that you can help them solve, but they need to know your name, they need to know your story, and I'm here to help you tell it. I'm Sherry Clark, and I'd love to hear from you at sherryradiosales@gmail.com. Let's get together and tell your story.
J. Allen Builders, Kenway Concrete presents high school football on ESPN Radio 102.7.
Friday at 7 o'clock, the Russell County Lakers at 3-1 pay a visit to the 1-3 Warren East Raiders in Bowling Green.
Warren East Raider football is brought to you by
J. Allen Builders, Kenway Concrete, Rafferty's, R&R Heating and Air Conditioning, Southern States, and Hardee's.
Raider football is on ESPN Radio 102.7 and streaming online at ESPNRadio1027.com.
This is a Morgan & Morgan consumer message.
I'm John Morgan of Morgan & Morgan. One of the first things clients ask me is, what is my case worth? It depends on the injury, liability, and damages. And in most cases, it depends on the lawyer you hire. All lawyers are not the same. I would like to invite you to visit forthepeople.com to see what your case might be worth. You will see injuries like yours, offers made by the insurance company, and verdicts made by juries. We try more cases than any firm in America every year. Insurance companies know which law firms try cases and which firms settle cheap. Your case value is different in the hands of different lawyers. There was only one Babe Ruth, and then hundreds and hundreds of minor league players. I've been around now a long time, fought countless battles. We are fighters who take on giants. In some cases, you hired your lawyer without doing your research, and you can just as quickly fire them if you now think you made a mistake. You only get one swing at the plate. Morgan & Morgan, forthepeople.com. Offices, Bowling Green.
Swag Brandon Dowdy. Swag Brandon Dowdy. I think I scored a touchdown.
I played this for Brandon Dowdy, Brett Williams, and he wasn't. I don't think he necessarily liked it.
Somebody told me about that. I don't know if it was you, but somebody mentioned the Swag Brandon Dowdy clip to me before. Now I'm finally getting a taste of it.
Thank you, the Tune God. I'm not sure if he's still a rapper or if that's still his rapping name, but at the time of this release, it was the Tune God. So credit the Tune God for that Swag Brandon Dowdy tribute. He brought the good graces back to the WKU press box this weekend after really letting us down against Central Arkansas in week 1. So
he had to redeem himself a bit.
I'm glad he brought that back this weekend. Some Pro Tops updates. Deion Yelder with a couple of catches for Patty Mahomes and the Chiefs offense. It's so crazy when he kind of got picked up there. I was like, he may get a couple of catches. And then all of a sudden, boom, it's the biggest offense in the NFL, and they throw to everybody.
That they do. And sometimes they lateral it to other people within that offense. So.
And now Deion's getting his chance to become maybe Patty Mahomes' tight end in waiting. Who knows? So awesome for Yelder. I guess a sad update, not a super sad update, could be a lot worse, was Jack Doyle left the game with the concussion symptoms after a hit from Vontez Burfict, which in turn has had Vontez suspended for the entire season. Granted, he's had multiple incidents in the past, which is why they've come out with a season-long suspension. Still surprising to hear that, but when you see the plays of the past, when you know the guy that did it, and then especially when you do it on Jack Doyle.
Oh, no doubt.
I mean, that is just, you're crossing a line that you cannot cross.
Yeah, Burfict crossed a few of those lines beforehand, and I agree with you. It's surprising to see the NFL actually do it, but it's something that should have been done several years ago.
Right. The best meme I've seen of the football weekend was, Raiders fan. Oh, we got Burfict for so cheap because of his past suspension. Vontez Burfict gets suspended, and then it was that surprise Pikachu face.
Oh, yeah.
Raiders fans. Like
Pikachu making a comeback.
Oh, yeah. I'm so surprised that Vontez Burfict suspended for the season, not going to be able to help us out. Poor Raiders. They were talking playoffs.
I mean, they're still 2-2. They beat
the Colts,
2-2,
didn't they? I tried to put that to the wayside because the Titans can't beat the Colts at home, but the Raiders can go to Lucas Oil and beat the Colts.
Oh, will the real Tennessee Titans please stand up?
The Buccaneers go on the road to L.A. across the – put up 55.
I wrote off Jameis Winston, actually, quite frankly, a long time ago, and I did again earlier this season, and then that happened. So,
and I don't want to get too off topic because we'll get into the Redskins, and then we'll carry this until 7 o'clock.
Yeah, I don't really want to talk about the Redskins, to be honest with you.
We
it
can't
is an
do that.
Disaster.
We can't do that. 7 o'clock, we've got the Tyson Helton Coaches Show from Roosters. That might be a packed Coaches Show because it was a great game this past Saturday versus UAB. But we got to talk WKU volleyball. They have gotten off to not just a great start, not just a good start, but a ridiculous start. 15-1 overall, the WKU volleyball program, and they are just sweeping up a majority of the Conference USA awards. I said this name earlier in the program, and I know I got it wrong. It's Nadia Diodane.
That's one of many different versions I've heard.
Yeah.
The correct pronunciation is Judene.
Judene.
Yes, indeed.
Okay, well, I can say that once you've said it to me.
Yeah, exactly.
Nadia Judene collects her third CUSA Setter of the Week honors. I believe Paige Briggs earlier wrapped up a couple of Freshman of the Week honors. And, when you're 15-1, receiving votes for top 25, I think that was the coaches' poll.
Yes.
At one point. Yeah, you're going to win a lot of awards.
Absolutely. Yeah, the Tops have really just taken care of their business since day one this year. They have the most sweeps of anybody in the country. They, as you said, 15-1. That's, in fact, the second best record in the country. There's one unbeaten team left in D1, and that's the number one team, Baylor. WKU has the most wins of any of the one-loss teams, so that's pretty good company to keep at the top.
And I was looking through their schedule this year. Now, Coach... how am I blanking out? Coach Hudson. Thank you. Coach Travis Hudson. He always loves to schedule tough opponents because they're always working to get that at-large bid just in case of a falter in the Conference USA tournament. Now, it may not be the toughest schedule on paper, but when you go 15-1, you got to assume that's giving you a really large backbone as terms of at-large bid.
Absolutely, and there really are some good teams in there. Obviously, 3 Power Fives. The loss to Louisville is the lone loss, and Ohio State, Arizona State both fell victim to the Tops. When you look at some of the mid-majors, Tulane and Tulsa both finished 3rd and 4th last year in the American. They were teams that made runs in the second-tier volleyball tournament, kind of the equivalent of the NIT or WNIT. So those were good wins. Tulsa, the Tops just wiped the floor with them. You look at Bowling Green, a team that won the MAC in the regular season last year, returned a lot of pieces. And even Northern Kentucky, I don't think anybody knew, myself included, how good of a team Northern Kentucky was.
Really?
And they proved they've got a lot of pieces over there. They're going to. I don't see any way they lose the Horizon League.
Interesting. And another, of course, we were talking about the big soccer matchups this Thursday and Sunday. Volleyball matches as well with big matchups and Conference USA implications between another rival, 100 Miles of Hate, Friday at 6 o'clock versus Middle, and then Sunday noon versus Marshall. The Friday game will be on HSSN Facebook. Sunday, of course, you'll be at the soccer match.
Correct.
We're busy on the soccer pitch. But tell me about what you think the Hilltopper team brings to that Middle Tennessee game on Friday. I know you haven't seen Middle Tennessee yet, but I mean, on paper, WKU has to be the favorite for Conference USA right now.
Yeah, I mean, you pretty much could talk to anybody, and they will either tell you WKU or Rice. Rice is ranked right now. They're 21 in the country. They beat the number 3 team in the country 2 weeks ago in Texas, which was obviously a massive win for them. So everyone understands. And Rice, they won the conference last year, returned basically everybody. So Travis was the first one to say Rice is easily the favorite. They're top 25 good, and obviously that's been the case. But I think a lot of people are sleeping on WKU because even though there's been a lot of turnover lately, they have the right pieces right now. And Travis has said, I love this team. I love coaching this team, the mentality of this team. And he's been saying, and he said it again yesterday, he was not happy with how they played against Southern Miss. He said, he said before that, I don't know his exact quotes after the game, but he has said before that this team is far from a finished project. He knows what this team's capable of and getting everybody clicking at the same time, and they haven't seen that except for certain sets here or there. So if they're not doing that and they're already 15-1 against good competition, absolutely, it's going to come down to them and Rice, and those should be some pretty insane matches when those get played.
And for someone that doesn't necessarily watch volleyball or keep up with volleyball, how do you explain it compared to in terms of like football and basketball, where in basketball, you have 5 at a time, you have one guy that maybe can make the difference both ways, defensive and offensively, for 18 minutes of a 20-minute half, and then you compare that to football where you're only on the field half the time if you're playing. How do you fit volleyball into that mantra? Is it more of a basketball skill set where one player can maybe take over a match necessarily, or is it more of a football mindset where, look, you've got to have 5 or 6 girls all playing at the same time in unison if you're going to come away with the victory? How would you compare that in the two?
That's a very good question. I think it's a little bit of both. I think it starts with thinking from a basketball standpoint, your point guard is your setter. And I think over time I've learned that the point guard's a better comparison than the quarterback simply because the setter has a lot of options as to whether to set up someone else or take their own, call their own number, if you will, and just dump it over for a kill. There's a lot of different things, but you have to have somebody that can see the floor at all times, make snap decisions, and put everyone else in the perfect position at the right time. So it starts with the setter, and Judenet is certainly fantastic. As you mentioned earlier, 3-time conference setter of the week in 5 weeks already. And then as for the rest of the team, though, you really need to have offensive and defensive specialists. As Travis said, he tries to recruit girls that can play across the front row, girls that can play across the back row. If you get a gem like Paige Briggs is one of them who can play all the way around as elite offensively and defensively, that definitely helps you. But you essentially have to have two different teams, if you will, that when they play together can do their individual jobs at a high level and accomplish the goal.
Which obviously Travis Hudson, he does a pretty good job of meshing those two teams together as far as defensive and offensive specialists. Just unbelievable year in, year out what he does for WKU Volleyball. We just got about 4 minutes left here in the program on ESPN. Again, 7 o'clock tonight over on SAM, the Tyson Helton Coaches Show, live from Roosters. Go out to Roosters or tune in, SAM 100.7 if you'd like to hear Coach Helton and Randy Lee. But WKU Volleyball and Soccer Thursday, Friday, and Sunday, all on HSSN Facebook feed. Who's gotten to help you out so far on the Hilltopper broadcasts? Who's been your favorite color commentator, I should say?
Yeah,
put somebody on the spot for
exactly. You always put me on the spot one time when I come on the show here, Garrett. Well, I'll tell you who I have had this year on soccer. I mentioned Nathan Yazdani earlier, a senior at WKU. He was fantastic. Sydney Dowdy, in fact, Brandon Dowdy's wife, has been the primary analyst for soccer. It's been awesome to pick her brain. She played here, Sydney Sisler, for those of you who remember her name, as well as Casey Tinius, the former Hilltopper kicker, who is a friend and family of the program, some of its alumni also. And then on the volleyball side, it's been two of the longtime friends and playing partners of Travis Hudson, Ken Marshall and Steve Allen, and they've been fantastic also.
Yeah, I knew Casey. He was a Bowling Green high school soccer prodigy. I'll throw that out there for you. Yeah.
Okay, so there's the soccer.
You could tell him that he's a BG high school soccer prodigy.
Nice.
Of course, I think he's a lot older than me, so that was growing up the BG high school soccer days. They were rolling through the tanks. So WKU Volleyball and soccer, I mean, they're going undefeated the rest of the way, right?
That'd be nice. Everybody, football, volleyball, soccer, they're all unbeaten so far. Let's just keep it rolling.
I picked against the Tops this Monday, UAB, and I don't know if I should keep picking against the Tops across the board. Well, are people just going to hate me if I just keep picking against the Tops, or are they going to jump on my side because they just keep winning when I pick against them?
Well, it depends. You'd have to get a good streak going like Lee Corso did. I want to say it was Clemson that he didn't pick the Clemson head when they were on game day and for a while, and then obviously all the Clemson fans actually started rooting for him to pick the other mascot head. I think that's what it was. So maybe you do that, but I would only advise doing that with football because soccer and volleyball, you're going to have a better chance of winning on that one.
I'm never picking against Travis Hudson for one. Soccer, that's coming. I'm getting to the point where I'm starting to never pick against WKU soccer, but volleyball, they've just had that. They've had that too long in the bag with Travis Hudson. Just a couple of minutes left, so we'll transition NFL talk just a little bit. The Redskins or the Dolphins? Worst team in the NFL.
Well, we're going to find out because they play one another in Week 6 in Miami.
Oh, interesting.
So that's when we'll know. But the Redskins are in absolute disarray right now. The Dolphins, as I've heard people, they are tanking, legitimately, and so they're expecting this. The Redskins were expected to be somewhat competitive, and this is what's happening, so it's not pretty.
Well, there is one undefeated team tonight that's going to get a victory.
True.
The Bengals and the Steelers are both winless, so whoever loses that game, they're right there in that conversation, I guess.
They are. So, too, are the Jets. The Broncos are also winless. So
I forgot.
There's company at the bottom.
Vic Fangio and 4.
Yes, indeed.
I stole that, but that's a good one, right?
I like it.
Vic Fangio, coach of the Broncos. I had to explain the joke. I'm sorry. We're not in Denver. If we were in Denver, more people could have gotten that.
Yes.
It would have been better.
I feel you.
Jay Gruden, I don't have any clever Jay Gruden 0-4 jokes. I'm sorry.
Jay Gruden about to be on the job market and 4.
You heard it from Brett Williams, voice of the Lady Tops. Thanks for coming on, buddy.
Appreciate you, Garrett, as always.
Sportsline, ESPN. Tune in to Tyson Helton Coach's Show tonight, 7 o'clock on SAM. You're listening here, though, on ESPN 102.7 FM.